here in film, movie critic for the New York Times, Alissa Wikinson. She recently released her top 10 movies of the year. Alissa, so good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Let's start right there with just some of your big picture thoughts on the year, in the year in movies. Are people fully returning to the theaters now post-pandemic?
We're getting to numbers that match last year's numbers, so it's nothing like pre-pandemic. But one thing we have to remember is that there was this huge streaming boom right as the pandemic started, and so the streamers have kind of grabbed some of that, that airspace. But box office returns have been pretty good this year, even without a Barbie Oppenheimer situation.
Right, but certainly some big hits. So let's go through your list now, the top 10. And you have a movie that just came out. It has not received a lot of attention just yet, but I suspect that's going to change. Nickel Boys is number one. Tell us why.
Yeah, this is a really incredible movie. I really love it. I think it's kind of radical for an American movie. It's based on Colson Whitehead's novel, The Nickel Boys, directed by Ramel Ross. And it's about a young boy who is taken to a reform school. And then it's also about him later in his life kind of grappling with what happened. But it's an interesting movie because while the novel is in third person, so it's kind of omniscient, this one is in POV. So you're actually seeing what the characters are seeing during the movie, and that helps you to connect to the movie in a different way than we typically think of when we watch this kind of movie.
Tell us about a couple others on your list here that seem like smaller films that made it, Eno, Anora, and the rest.
Yeah, well, one of them is Union. So Union is a documentary that I think is really relevant right now. It's about the unionization effort at the Amazon warehouses in Staten Island over the past few years. And it's the filmmakers kind of spent a lot of time with the organizers and the workers there, kind of on the inside, seeing what goes into this effort, seeing them kind of work with what is the biggest corporation you can possibly imagine. And the results are mixed, right? It's not an easy fight to unionize. This movie also had trouble getting distribution. So the filmmakers were told that they would not that streamers wouldn't be interested in them because they're not interested in social issue documentaries anymore. And it's actually one of 3 shortlisted Oscar documentaries that have struggled to find distribution this year.
Yeah, I know your top 10 list features a trio of documentaries. Yeah. So those are on the sort of smaller end of movie making. Let's talk about some of the blockbusters this year.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't make your top 10 list, but were hits all the same, whether it's from Wicked or Deadpool. Tell us some lessons that you think Hollywood studios have learned from this year about what's working.
It's always hard to tell because this is a weird year. We had COVID delays are still causing problems, and then we had the strikes last year. So there's been strange delays. We had kind of a quiet summer, but we have sequels are still working, and things based on IP are still working. Wicked is a huge hit. Deadpool was a huge hit. The biggest movie of the year right now is still Inside Out 2, which of course is a sequel of its own. So that's one lesson that I think the studios are always going to be taking. But I think another lesson is that people actually want to go back to the theater. People enjoy going to a movie theater. It's cheaper than going to a concert. It's cheaper than going to a play. It's an event that you can partake in and have fun with your friends or your family. And that's something that companies have started to talk about. Maybe we should reprioritize the theater and not just send everything straight to streaming.
Alissa, what strikes me when I see your list, starting with Nickel Boys, are you seeing in this kind of polarized 2024 election and all, are you seeing people gravitate away from message kind of movies? Because Nickel Boys had segregation in it and all.
Sure.
Are you seeing people saying, I just want to be entertained, I don't want to think about, or are you seeing people saying, no, I want to see the illumination of things that I think should be discussed?
It's a funny question to think about because Wicked is one of the biggest movies of the year by far, and if you watch that movie, it is just about fascism. That's what it's about. Right. It's not even subtle about it, right? So I think people are looking to be entertained, but there's a lot of space for filmmakers who want to combine the entertainment with the message and sort of slip it in sideways, which is something that art has always been really good at doing. But sometimes we get a little heavy-handed about it. The better ones are the ones that bring you into the story give you an emotional connection and then slip in whatever they're trying to communicate.
We'll have to see how this next Trump era potentially
That's right.
fuels art, like if it did like the last time around. And to your point about the experience of the theaters, I have not, don't get to too many movies these days, but saw Conclave recently, and it just, there's like, which was great. And also so fun to just be there and have other people react to it
Yes.
as well. That's some of
Yes.
the experience. So we suggest people make their way to the multiplexes. New York Times' full list of the year's best movies online now. Movie critic Alissa Wikinson. Thank you so much. Coming up here.